Hi everyone, this is Eric. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get started doing digital sculpting on your computer if you've never done any sculpting before. So I'm going to start with the very basics, and I'm going to start with a computer program that you don't have to install on your machine. You can just simply load it into a web page, which is pretty neat because it's totally free. So I'm going to go slowly, assuming that you've never done this before. And so hopefully you can follow along or pick up some ideas, but of course you'll have to do some practice as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've gone to the Google homepage. You can use any search engine and just go to the search field and type in the letters SCULPT, that's sculpt. Then press the space bar and type in G and L. So sculpt GL. And then hit enter. That will take you to this page, which is a Google search results page, and you'll want to click on this first link right here that says Sculpt GL, a WebGL sculpting app. I'm going to click on this link, and it's going to open up a new web page, and in that web page we see a giant pink sphere and a grid. This is our sculpting application, so we can start sculpting right away. Now you'll notice on my machine that it goes pretty fast because I have a fast machine, but you might be using something that goes a bit slower. So just be patient with yourself and just, take a few brush steps at a time and practice. You'll get better and it will get faster. But at first, if you're using a slow machine, it might be a little bit pokey. You might have to wait a few seconds for each brush stroke to update. So try not to get frustrated, just do the best that you can. So let's do a little sculpting. I'm holding the mouse over the pink sphere and moving it around. I'm not holding any buttons on the mouse. I'm just hovering over it and dragging. You see that little circle move around? That indicates the position of the brush on the surface. Now I'm going to press the left mouse button. I'm going to hold it and I'm going to drag across the surface. And you can see as I drag back and forth, I get this little mark here. I'm going to rotate the view by dragging while holding the left mouse button. Here in the gray area, you can see how it's rotating it around. So I'm changing the view. And I'm going to draw on the surface again while holding the left mouse button. You can see I'm making another mark. Now you'll also notice that when I make a mark on one side, it's copied over to the other, or it's mirrored over to the other. This is because I have symmetry turned on. So symmetry means everything I do on one side is going to be done to the other side. The stuff I do in the middle is going to be on top of each other. So let's see if I drag this down here, you can see I'm making this other mark and I'm rotating the view. Now I've got a few marks on my surface here and I'm starting to shape it. Let's say I make a mistake. Maybe there's something that I decide that I don't like. I want to get rid of the last thing that I did. I'm going to hold the Control key and press the Z key or Z key for undo. So Control Z for undo. See how that mark disappeared? I'm going to do it again. Hold Control, press the Z button, and then those brush marks disappear. Let's do it a few more times. Control Z, Control Z. Now I'm back to the beginning. Let's try that again. I'm going to hold the left mouse button and drag on the surface to create a mark. Let's create a little mark that looks like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size of the brush. So I'll go over to this menu, and where it says radius, I'm going to drag this little gray bar over to the right. You can see that circle is getting bigger, so I'm getting a bigger radius. Now if I draw on the surface, my brush size is much larger. Maybe I'll drag down here. I'm just dragging back and forth. Let's say I want to smooth this out. So I like the mark, but I want to make it a little bit smoother. So I'm going to hold the Shift key and drag on the surface, and you can see how it makes things smooth. So Shift and left mouse button drag, to smooth the surface. I'm going to let go of the Shift key and drag on the surface to make a mark. Hold the Shift key, drag on the surface to smooth the mark. Now let's try something really interesting. I want to make a new mark on the surface, but I want the mark to go in. I don't want it to be pulled out. I want it to be pushed in. So I'm going to hold the Alt key and I'm going to drag on the surface here while I'm holding the Alt key, and you can see how it's pushing in. Although I don't like that because it was a little bit bigger than I wanted. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo that. Do it a few times. Get back to where it looks like this. I'm going to go over to this menu here and drag that radius slider over to the left to make the radius smaller. Now I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag on the surface to make a depression. So you can see now I have two depressions. I'm going to hold the Shift key and smooth those out. I'm going to let go of the Shift key and drag right here to pull this out. Hold the Shift key to smooth it. So I have kind of a very weird little face here. Let's make some nostrils. Just going to drag right here a few times. Like just dragging over and over again. Now I'm going to make the radius smaller. Hold the Alt key and drag right here to make two little depressions for the nostril. Let's see if we can pull out the center of that a little bit more. Maybe smooth it. And maybe draw a little bit down here to make it look more like a nose. I'm going to drag it here to make a couple of eyes. Hold the Shift key to smooth them. Maybe do that again. Hold the Shift key to smooth them. Hold the Alt key and drag, and then I've got two little pupils. So I got kind of a weird little cartoon character going here. Let's see if I can make a mouth. I'm going to drag right here to make a mouth. Hold the Alt key and drag right here. Hold the Shift key to smooth. So just making like a little mouth here. Make a little V. Hold the Alt key and press right here. Smooth. Now what I want to do, smooth that out a little bit, is I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going to go over here to this menu where it says Tool, and I'm going to click on this where it says Brush, and I'm going to select Move. And I'm going to drag on the radius slider towards the right to make it bigger. Now what I can do is I'm holding the left mouse button and I'm dragging on the surface to kind of shift things around. You make like a really goofy face here. Hold the Shift key and smooth this cheekbone here. Try dragging stuff around. And make the radius a little bit smaller and drag out a chin. Drag right here to make some ears. Hold the Shift key to smooth the ears out and just drag it back. Now I'm not saying that this is the prettiest person in the world that I'm making. It's just a goofy little cartoon character I'm making for practice. So the more you practice, of course, the better you get. And what you want to do is once you kind of get used to the kind of changing the brush size and using the move brush and the other brushes and the smooth brush, what you can do is just start experimenting with different brushes and see what happens when you use those brushes on your surface. So once you feel comfortable using the move brush and the regular brush and the smooth brush, let's try something else. So I'm just smoothing this out here real quick. I'm going to use the tool menu and choose crease. So with crease, I can drag on the surface. See how I'm dragging on the surface? And that makes a little line. Drag on the surface here, makes a little line. Drag on the surface right here, may be hard to see. Let's try that again. Always drag a couple times, and you can see I'm making kind of nostrils for the nose. I'm just kind of clicking and dragging to make nostrils for a nose. I'm going to show you one more trick that you can try. Let's get this looking good. There we go. I'm going to hold the Alt key and I'm going to drag on the surface, and instead of pushing the crease in, it's pulling it out. So you can see it makes the lips a little bit more obvious. So this one takes a lot of practice when you're first starting out to really get the hang of it. But once you do, you can start to really kind of make some interesting details on the surface. A little dimple right here. Maybe make some lines right there. And then maybe one down here. And if you really want to have some fun, see if you can make the ears look a little bit better. Draw a little line in there to make the border of the ear. Maybe smooth it out a little bit. There you go. Let's see, I'm going to try just making a couple more details here. Switch back to the regular brush. Pull this out. So it looks like he has closed eyes. He has very small eyes. There we go. We have kind of an interesting little face. So practice doing this whenever you can and see if your faces get better. See what different kinds of faces you can make. See what happens when you make really small ears and maybe a really large nose and really large eyes. Keep making different variations until you get a handle for how to work with the different brushes. Also play with the different brushes. See what happens when you use, say, something like drag as opposed to move. Or see what happens when you use the pinch brush. Or see what happens when you use the flatten brush. Try all these different brushes and see what kinds of effects you can create on the face. See what kind of different faces they create. And then another thing you can try is you can play with the material that's being used on the surface. So we have kind of a default standard pink material. If I expand rendering and I choose a different material, say, let's try red clay, see what that looks like. Or skin, or green, or white. All these other different versions of materials. I kind of like the pearl material. So see if that allows you to see more of the stuff that's on your surface here. Okay, good luck. I hope this has been helpful. Remember, just practice every day, and over time you'll get a lot better.